G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. We are big on helping our listeners build intergenerational wealth through investing in property. And today's guest is going to deliver some absolute nuggets. So you're in for a real treat today. And before we do kick off, I want to just reiterate that this chat is going to be general in nature and not intended to give advice. So now that we've got that out of the way, Jason Titus, welcome to the show.
Mate, thanks for having me.
Mate, thanks for being
It's nice to be here.
So we'll talk through your role. You're a buyer's agent and Australian property scout under the tutelage of the great Sam Gordon. So you've done your apprenticeship with Big Sammy. But I think what you bring to the table is not only an incredible personality, but an incredible story that comes with being an investor. I want to talk through your mindset. I want to talk through what you've done to get to where you are today.
Yep.
But I think every time that we've had a catch up, we're not even talking shop. We're just talking everything in life.
Yeah.
I think because you've just got a great energy about you, mate. So I want to say thanks for the way you show up. And like I said, you're going to be in a real treat for today. Now, let's talk about where you are in life at the moment. Dad to two girls.
Yeah.
I feel you. So I think there's a certain connection when you're a girl dad. But how old are your kids and how's life treating you?
Life's been busy, man. Life's been really busy. My eldest Gigi is 5 years old.
Yeah.
My youngest Zoe will be about 2.5 now.
Yeah.
Jael and I are married, and we got married in 2017. So we're married 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. So this year's 7 year itch, I think.
Okay. I'll let you work that out.
I'll work the 7 year itch out.
I'm a broker, but I'm terrible at maths.
So yeah, man, like life is really busy. Gigi's going to school in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah,
so
it's wild, isn't it?
School for the first time. And man, life is someone said to me, one of the boys in the team said to me just the other day, like, what's it like having kids? And I said, it's like, you just give absolutely everything during the day. Then you go home and then like you switch in and you got another shift.
Dude, that is exactly what I told my brother. I'm like, it's like having a second job.
Yeah.
But you have one arm tied behind your back trying to do that job.
Right. And so I'm like, I give absolutely everything during the day and then I'm pretty knackered. And I said, but what makes it worthwhile is like, I could have done absolutely anything during the day. I could have lost deals or got 5-6 deals, whatever I could have done. Yeah. But those girls still approach me the exact same way every single time I walk through the door.
Spot on.
And I said, I feed off that energy for about an hour and 20. And then the patient starts to appear, and then it's time to go to bed.
It's we live parallel lives in that sense. Yeah, two girls, same ages, and I think it's healthy perspective. Doesn't matter what we do, doesn't matter how many goals we kick during the day. It's how we show up at home that often determines our success back in the office. Is what I feel, not the other way. So success at the office doesn't necessarily mean success at home. Yep. Success at home means success in the office.
Totally,
is kind of how I look at it.
And I've found that within my marriage. Like when my marriage is going great and I'm in a great place with Jamie Lee and everything's like, it just reverberates into everything else.
Totally.
And then when we're arguing or this or that, like you just feel so, it's
a drain.
I forget who said it, but it's like, if your relationship is going well, everything's going well. If it's going bad, everything's going bad. And like, that's for me, I'm always trying to see like our relationship, our marriage is the tree and our kids is the fruit that come from the tree. And I feel like my parents' generation was like, they gave everything to their kids. And then like, I feel like they're now, as their kids have grown up and like now they're just trying to like reconnect. But I've always tried to keep it as like, if the tree dies, there's no point of having the fruit. So like try and keep the tree growing.
Great analogy. Great analogy. Yeah. A man of wisdom, mate. You missed your calling as a Buddhist monk, I think.
Buddhist monk, yeah. Well, maybe life coach, Tony Robbins.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
I love Tony.
Nothing wrong. Love Tony. Tony's great. You mentioned about wife, kids. And so I guess one thing that I've really connected and resonated with your story is the way that you've gone from, I guess, no property to 4 properties, right? And would you start investing at 32, I read?
Would have started investing at 32.
32? And I'm reading here, $32,000 cash in.
Yes.
So we're talking about, some people might say, hey, look, because a lot of people, you've got clients that are APS, I've dealt with a lot of investors, some are young, right? And 32 can feel a little bit like old, right? And then 32K in, you're like, am I going to be able to get into the market, for example, as well? So take us through, when did the penny drop that you needed to do something? Because and what I will do for anyone listening, I'll include a link to your original podcast that you recorded.
Oh yeah,
with Sam, because I think
Okay.
you get a lot of context into your life getting into this point.
yeah.
Yeah, but I guess pick it up from here and go. Well, what was the penny drop moment for you that you go, hey, look, I think we need to be in the property game.
Yeah. The penny drop moment it would have been pretty much when we were pregnant, just had Gigi the first, like we just had our first child, or in that stage.
Yeah.
And it was, okay, we're looking to maybe buy something. We were looking at a couple of apartments in Cronulla, Caringbah, that type of area, and we're like, if we do this, we're going to be pretty stretched.
Yeah.
Because Jamie Lee's probably not going back to work anytime soon, and I don't want that type of pressure. But I want to buy something. I want to like put some money into something. And
Which is generally, and again, to jump in, when a lot of people think about putting down roots is when they start to have a family, because you want that security, you want that stability. A mum wants to nest, for example, as well, and have that safety net as well. So, yeah, it's not uncommon to have this light bulb moment at this time in life as well, right?
And yeah, so that's what it would have been. And a mate of mine who had dealt with a few different buyers agents, he'd worked with a few, and he listened to at that time some podcasts and done some stuff. But I was looking into just like, okay, do I invest in property? We looked at some shares for a little while, and I was like, no, I do not want to have a mortgage weighing over my head, because I still wasn't that secure in what I was doing for work.
Okay.
I was like, I don't really love the company that I'm working at. I was just a bouncing around sales guy. I worked at this tech company for a little while, worked at this education for a company for a little while, worked for this, but
You'd be like a sales gun for hire at that point.
I was just bouncing around. Like I was sales manager here, then I was a BDM here. So I just didn't have any stability. I was like, I don't want the noose of a mortgage around my neck when I'm still trying to like figure out what I want to do. But I knew I wanted to do something, and I thought investment properties, if the rent could pay for my mortgage, I've got a property, but I've invested in property. I'm in property, but I don't have the noose.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of moment where I was like, that's what it's going to be.
Nice.
That would have been 2018.
Okay.
2018, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So
how did you go about? You mentioned a mate recommended. How did you go and then the due diligence process of picking a buyer's agent? And
I'd actually spoken to another buyer's agent. That would have been around that same time, 2018. I would have signed up, paid the engagement form, everything with this buyer's agent, and we had gone through the process of getting finance, starting to do a deal, and I was always going to do a guarantor loan with my parents.
Yeah, okay.
And I was still getting all that sorted, and then I signed a contract. I'd done a deal. It was in Southeast Queensland, all that type of stuff with this buyer's agent. And then I asked for finance extension because I didn't quite get it in time. They declined it. Bang, deal fell over.
Right.
And kind of blessing in disguise, kind of not. But at that stage, it was like, and I didn't go back with that buyer's agent because when I couldn't get the extension, just how he made me feel, like he didn't berate me, but like just was so short, so I was like, oh shivers, man, like I'm still here, like I still want to buy something. Like it hadn't quite gone to plan, but whatever. And I was just like, sweet, I'm not using this guy. I'm not going back with this guy.
Right.
And so I just didn't do anything. And then it would have been 2019, I would have spoken to Sam. And it was the same mate that connected me with that buyer's agent said, oh, I've been speaking to Sam.
Okay.
He's younger, he's more passionate, more driven, gives a shit, like actually wants to help. Talk to him. And this would have been 2019, like just pre-COVID. You know what I mean? And I was in a sales role as a BDM, and I just landed a couple of big contracts, and I was like, sweet, I've got some big coin coming in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
I want to like find a way to like put this money to something before I spend it on something else. Spoke to Sam, was like, yeah, man, sweet, as soon as the money hits your account, like, let's go. Bang, COVID hits, all those contracts freaking gone. And so I was back to square one, no cash. But I'd engaged Sammy and was kind of just like chatting to him. Anyway, I reached back out to him and basically just said like, hey, can you teach me some stuff? You know, can you teach me? And then at the time his website was not great. It was like a Wix website. And he said he paid a couple $100 for someone just to bang it together. But his business had just grown. And I was like, man, this is not a representation of like the work you're doing. I said, Jail and I can like put together like a Squarespace website, just like get some stuff together for you, bang. He said, yeah, sweet. I'll teach you how to invest and how all this type of stuff. And you can just do my website. Bit of contraband. I'll do this, you do that.
Yeah.
Bang. And then it would have been, we'd done the website and he said, man, business is going well. I need someone to help me manage the deals. Do you want to come work for me? Wow. And I was like, in the back of my mind, I always thought like, man, this would be awesome to work for him. And I was like, oh man, bit of a risk, you know? Jumping industries, COVID, this, that, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. Next month, hey man, just had a record month. I need someone to help me. It's going to be you or it's going to be someone else. And then, nah man, can't do it, blah, blah. But I got my real estate license and maybe we'll do it in 6 months, 12 months time. And then he messaged me again, month after, different pitch. Let's meet for a coffee. And then went for a coffee, said, man, this is what I think we can do, blah, blah. And I was like, oh man, it feels good. Came back and my missus was just like, why don't you go for it? You love this stuff. Why don't you do it? And I was like, oh, you make it sound so easy. Like, here's a big risk. And she said, you love it. You're great at sales. Surely you can transfer it into this. You can make it work. Bang. And then I had to give 3 months notice. So I gave my 3 months notice and I was kind of working part-time because I was still working from home from COVID. So throughout the day, I'd call some agents and try and get some deals together and try and manage some stuff and blah, blah, blah. Like nothing too hectic. And then when I first started with Sam, I was like, as soon as I start, I'm going to get a deal. And at that time, Sammy was looking in Perth. We went and did a little scouting trip in Perth. I saw him buy one. I bought one.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I really love when buyers agents team or themselves are buying where they're recommending for clients. It says a lot, doesn't it? Now, naturally, the strategy from where maybe a buyer's agent is personally compared to where their clients are can be different. So I take that with a grain of salt. But it also speaks volumes when the team are buying where clients are buying, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I've always, because he said that to me from the start, like I want everyone in the team to be investors so that it translates into like you understand the emotional journey, you understand the thought process, and you can help someone manage not just a deal, but like it's an emotional thing, it's exciting, and then you kind of realize at the end of it you settle and you get an email and the money's out of your account. It's like, oh, that was it? And it's like, it's a bit of nothing, but you put so much emphasis on it. So it's like, I want everyone to have that so that they can help people and they can connect with them. And so I done that deal and I did get my parents to go guarantor. So I did 105% lend on a $350K purchase. And then that thing would have charged in 6 months, 9 months, did a reval, got them off.
Yeah.
Took it from St. George to CBA. And then would have been another 12 months after that, took about 50 or so out and bought again.
Insane.
So
all that within like a 18-month period.
18-month, 15-month window, yeah.
Yeah, well done. And then that number one springboarded you by number two you just mentioned. Yep. And has a portfolio yourself.
So I had an agent call me and he was basically just saying, hey man, this guy wants this amount. He's told me he needs it quick. He needs his property gone. I forget the exact circumstances, but like go into RP data, have a look at the address. What do you think? And he told me, I think you should buy this one.
Wow.
Because I'd done like multiple deals with this agent and he was like, this is a great deal. Like I reckon it's worth way more than what this guy's like wants it gone forward today. Yeah. And so true to Sam Gordon's training, I put an offer 10 grand below what the guy brought it to me at. And he said, no, man, it's not going to do it. You've got to come up to the price. I said, all right, I'll take it. Done that deal. And then it would have been 9 months after that. We took another 60 grand out of that and bought another one. And so it's just like this, people say to me all the time, like this little system strategy that Sammy's created of like buying below market in a high growth location and then snowballing deposits. Yeah. I knew it and I spoke to so many people about it when I first started. And when I was actually doing it myself, it was like, I bought 4 properties in 2.5 years with relatively no cash in. And it was just like, oh man, this is so true. Like, and people like, how does it work?
The first question is people going, how?
How does it work? And it is like, you find a high growth location. If a property is worth 450, try and buy the property for 420, 425, below market value. And then you've got a bit of equity on the way in. It goes up in value again. So you've got baked in equity. You get a bit more equity and then you take it out.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's quite simple.
Yeah. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Not easy.
Is what I tell a lot of people. It's some people go like mortgage broking. I can do it. I'm like, here's how you write loans and here's how you write lots of them, for example. And they look at me probably the same way people looking and go, but how? I'm like, well, this is how you do it. You pick the phone up, you call people, you do what you say you're going to do, and blah, 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 and you follow the blueprint, right? It's a repeatable, scalable model, right? It's time tested at APS. But I think we then overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
People then have, but what ifs, or what about this, and how'd you go here? And it's like, but what about this location? It's like, whoa, now you're deviating from the blueprint. This is the plan. You got to follow the plan, and that's where I guess all those variants start to come, all those tangents start to come into it, isn't it?
I remember I listened to the podcast you and Sammy did, and he was talking about like negative cash flows on deals, and my interest rate, on my first deal was 2.6%. And then every time, like it would have gone up 1% every deal I did. It was like 3.5, 4.5, 5.5. Like it just kept going up. Yeah. But like we don't talk about that of like, but that is also like a battle that like some people would say, oh, well, I've done that deal at 2.6 and now the interest rate's 3.5 or 4.5. Like, oh, I'm not going to do that. It's going to cost me more. It's like, so by the time I was like getting to the fourth deal, like my portfolio was starting to become negative because I was just leveraging up on the thing all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about that either. But like, I understand the long game. Like the amount of capital that I've been able to build. My portfolio will be worth 1.8, 1.9, maybe hold 1.3 in debt. But I've only put 32 grand in. Like, but do I pay my portfolio every month? I do now. But that capital is still growing and there's no way I can save that capital as fast as it's growing. So that's where I want my money. I want it to.
I mean, you look at I looked at the median house increases over 2023, and you'd have to save. I think in Sydney, guys, please don't quote me on this, but it was somewhere into the tune of maybe about $1,500 to $2,000 each week. The average house price increased. Yeah. So on top of someone paying rent, I'm like, there's no way you're saving $1,500 to $2,000 a week just to keep up with the compounding increase in house prices in Sydney. I'm like, so if you're not in the market, you're falling behind as well. And so you've got into a growth location, you're in the market. And there's all the hopes and talks of property prices kind of stalling or falling. It just hasn't really kind of eventuated, right? So
I don't feel like it's happening.
Isn't it? And there's plenty of reasons why. We can go into it. I mean, you guys cover that in your podcast as well, and I've covered it a few times in ours, is you look at low supply on housing builds, you look at the migration numbers, you look at stage 3 tax cuts this year, we look at potential rate cuts in the future. It's like the odds are stacked in favour of house prices continuing to increase this year in 2024. All the economists are kind of tipping house prices increase as well, and they usually get it wrong. So let's hope they're right this year. But, all the metrics are leaning towards a fairly strong year in property as well. Yeah,
totally. And so I know that, and my end goal is not just to, like Sammy's accumulated so many properties, but it's like my end game is to build up a decent portfolio, sell a bit down, buy a nice family home in the Shire.
Beautiful.
Come back to what I know is buying below market properties, keep building the portfolio, sell some down, pay off some cash flow deals, sit on a nice little passive income by the time I retire. But I have, what this has also done is like, I didn't know where I wanted to live, but it's like, what's the 3 big decisions you got to make in life? Like who you marry, where you live, and what do you do to make money? And so like, that's a list, isn't it? Yeah. So I was like, yep, sweet. I know I'm married my dream girl, Jamie Lee, done. Know we want to live in the Shire. And then I found what I wanted to do to make money. So it was like those 3 big things. But it's, I don't know, like it's funny, property investing and even just starting to work at APS, I found those other 2 things pretty quickly because I didn't think I'd ever be able to afford to buy in the Shire. Because I see Cronulla and my parents, we grew up in Miranda, and I was like, you always want to live in Cronulla because you're always down there all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like the average house price is like 3.3 mil or something, you know? So I was like, man, how am I going to save? How am I going to get 300 grand to just put in a 10% deposit basically?
Yeah. Well, then at 3.3 with a 10% deposit, you still would then have the income to service a mortgage.
But $2.7 million mortgage, you know?
Well, yeah, it's going to be more. Yeah, 10%, 3.3, $3 million mortgage.
Far out.
And your mortgage insurance, that's probably going to be 60 grand.
So like, yeah, I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But having enough bread and butters to sell down and, you know, maybe you buy something for maybe not 3, but maybe you buy something in Carring Bar or something like that for 2.
2 something, yeah.
mean,
Living a good life.
You're living a great life, you know?
Living a very good life.
Living a great life in a great area. So I can see the path now. It's going to take a lot longer than what I thought and what I wanted.
That's cool.
But I can see the path so clearly now. And I will
life's a
forever
long
be
game,
grateful.
mate. Life's a long game. So, I mean, you're 30-something, right? Kids are 5 and 3. Like, they just want to park in a pool, mate. They don't need the big house right now. So if you keep your expenses low and save some cash while your properties are increasing in value, you're going to set yourself up pretty well for the future.
No, thanks, man. Yeah, it's sometimes it's an end game, you know, it's an end game. And I'm quoting your podcast again, so I'm talking about like what people are saying, like, oh, I want to buy where my parents have lived. It's like, that's where they're finished. They finished
start where someone's ended up.
Right.
Yeah.
And so my parents got a mad place in Sylvania, pool, this, that, you know, 5-bedroom place, mad house. But it's like, yeah, that's where they finished.
Correct.
And so it's like, but they started in some asbestos fibro shack in Miranda.
Exactly.
You know, they did.
Exactly. It's like your first car. You should be embarrassed of the first car you drive. You should be a little embarrassed about the first property you bought because that's all you could afford at the time.
Yeah.
And again, we want to reiterate this message, and this is kind of what we're putting out here is stepping stones. Be on the journey, stepping stones. It's not about kind of jumping levels. You got to go through that next stage. And I quote Super Mario to our team all the time. Like, you just got to collect the gold coins and keep going to that next level, right? You can't skip levels. You just got to go through and be on the journey. So I guess putting your buyer's agency hat on and you're talking to clients, do you see some of the, and I think Sam talks about empathy and what people are going through, do you see parts of yourself when you're on the phone and hearing what clients are going through, going, oh, I'm not sure, I'm umming and ahhing, and you're going, guys, I've been in your shoes, and this is not a sales pitch, this is just human to human. I'm telling you, I've been in your shoes, I empathize, but you need to take some action. And again, that's not a sales agenda. That's me doing what I do best, which is helping you get to where you want to go.
Totally. It meant it's, like I said before, it seems easy, you know. You buy here, you know, you get the equity uplift, and that's how you start to create wealth. But sometimes people are looking at, oh, this is negative cash flow, $2,000 a year. I don't want that deal, you know. Or like this, I've had some funny ones over the times, you know. Like someone once said to me, oh, there's power lines on this side of the street. I don't want that. Like, but I don't know if growth is going to discriminate this side of the street to that side of the street. Like the growth is going to happen in this area because of these fundamentals. So at times you do have to encourage people, move them along, get them out of their own way. But it's got to come from a place of empathy for the fact of, man, I've been there. And even when I signed the contract on the 4th property, I was super nervous. I went through my budget 4 or 5 times that night to be like, have I missed something? Is this the right decision? Can we make it work? Can we pay for it? Can we afford this? Like, you always still do that. But now I know that we've already had some solid growth out of that thing. It's like, yeah, that's why we did it. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be nerve-wracking. But it's funny. Sometimes I try and ask the team, and I'm actually reading a book at the moment, the Never Split the Difference. Okay. You read that?
I haven't read it. I've heard it.
Man, it's so good. I'm maybe halfway through, but he talks about like there's a black swan, and that's what his business is called, like Black Swan something or other. But it's like there's always a black swan moment in a conversation, which is actually like the crux of what is stopping someone from doing something. It's like the little tether, you pull it and like bang, it unravels everything. And normally sometimes you find like if someone is saying, oh, like, I don't want this deal for this or that, or I don't want to do it for this or that reason. If you pull on a little bit of a thread in a conversation, you're like, why is that? What makes you think that? Why'd you say that for? And then like it just unravels some things. And I've always found that even in my own life, asking myself just super basic questions unravels it. And a lot of the time it's driven by pure fear of myself. Like, I don't want to go back to what I was. And it's like, oh man, I don't know if I should do this. Why did I say that for? Oh, because I don't want to go back to freaking living at my parents' house when we just had Gigi and we had no money. And it's like, that's what I'm so afraid of. And so I don't want to make decisions so I don't go back there. But like, I'm not there. I'm a different person to who I was back then to who I am now. So
Do you think we make more decisions out of fear or optimism?
From what I know, I'm a big Tony Robbins fan, and I just hyped up on the conference in September.
Oh, mate, you went.
And we are totally making decisions from fear all the time. Like even yourselves, you talk about the towards motivators or the away from motivators. The away from motivators are so strong in our life, and I know I am also doing this investment game because I don't want to go back to living at my parents' house when I've just had my first child. And so it's like, shit, what have I got to do to never go back there? Yeah. I've got to be smart with my money. I'll be on top of our budget. I've got to freaking like just not spend money. I'm saying it's that, but what I mean is spend recklessly. Yes. Make it and spend it, make it and spend it. And just like, oh, who cares? Let's have a good time. Let's do this. Let's do that. Like everything's measured. We want to have a good time. Okay, what do we value? We value family holidays. Great. How many do we want to have this year? We can afford to have maybe 2 by spending X amount of money. Great. Let's put that money aside. That's our holiday fund. And like just being calculated. Before it was just like, just spend money. Yeah. And I look back at the opportunity cost of, through my 20s, I would have been to the States multiple times, like 3 or 4 times. Same. And it's like, I spent so much money on doing all that. I was like, I could have bought multiple properties instead of doing that. And that would have been the sacrifice to do that. But I don't know. I don't want to go into that, but
and it's hard because if you did that, it wouldn't have got you here. Yes. And that's the hardest part, I think, when you're reconciling that, going, oh, I'd be in such a different place. And I think that we talk about the pain versus the optimism. That's where a lot of people, I feel, is like, oh, I wish I just bought that property years ago. And you have to kind of be callous and say, but you didn't. Like, I missed buying in certain areas. I'm like, yeah, I can't lament that anymore. I can't live in that, dwell on that, because it never happened. It didn't. So it's like, well, here's the cards that I've got. I've got to learn to play with the cards I've got in my hand. And now the only thing I can really shape or have an impact on is the future. Yeah. And decisions that I make as well. It's funny, you like, every time I see Jimmy, who's a part of our team at APS, I see him and he's like, Jace, you're 10 years younger than me and you're doing this stuff now. I only started doing this stuff a few years ago. You're doing it 10 years earlier than I did. Yeah. And there's some of the guys in the team that's like in their mid-20s, I'm saying to them, you guys are doing it 10 years earlier than what I did. And it's just, it just keeps flowing on like that. It's like, well, he started when he started, and I look at him like, man, look how great look what you've done in 4 or 5 years. And he's looking at me like, man, you've done the same, but you're younger than me. And like, by the time you're at my age, it's like, correct. You just got to get started. That's, mate, the same thing we're having in our team. Like Damien, so my brother-in-law, for people that are listening, he bought his first home. He's moved to Caringbah. And I was like, dude, he's like 10 years younger than me. I'm like, mate, like, imagine where you've been 10 years. I think we get excited about that for other people. I think that's where, I think in that place in life where you're so excited about other people now grabbing it by the horns and going, I'm so happy you're doing it. And I wish sometimes I did it earlier in life as well. And so we want that. We want to kind of see other people level up in life and going, see what happens when you take action. It's like you're the beneficiary of that. Totally. And time may have market fluctuations, whatever, but over time it's going to come out in the wash and you're better for making those decisions. Your future self will thank you for what you're doing today. What do you think about this? Someone told me this just yesterday, and I've resonated with it a bit. They said that the longer you leave it, the harder it gets to go back and to start it. Oh, this is something that came up when I started broking, because I would get the younger clients that were coming to me and like they had low borrowing capacity and low deposits, but they had all the gusto. They wanted to get into the market. I was like, I don't want to be a dream killer because you've got so much energy. And then I'd speak to like some of our older clients and like the homes at a 20% LVR, the incomes are incredible. I was like, man, you can go buy 4 or 5 investment properties. And like, no way, we don't want to risk it. I was like, but you've got the means and the ability. And like, there's a tipping point in life that you get to going, now I don't want to risk the house. Like we've worked too hard to make a bad decision. And a bad decision will set us so far backwards. It's almost like living out of fear versus living in optimism, right? And so you got the younger buyers that live in optimism. Somewhere along life, it's like, you know, a few setbacks or bill shock or a bad relationship, and that then kind of like leaves you with a bit of scar tissue.
Totally.
And then as you get later in life, it's like, yeah, but someone else has lost their fortune and I don't want to become like them.
Oh, how often do you hear that?
Right. And so we're living through these type of stories or this type of fear. It's like, mate, you could have bought 3 or 4 properties and your retirement would be wildly different as well. And it's a very funny conversation to have because it means the ability that the risk factor is kind of shifted and changed, right?
Yeah, I find that it's normally and I think APS, we just naturally attract that type of client because of Sam and his story, and he's a bit younger, and so it's like that's what we attract. But we've also got a lot of people who are very well established and who are doing things. But it does seem like, I don't know, I feel like it's even just other decisions in my life. The longer I don't do things, the longer I feel like I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But I know I should. I know I should do it.
And to that point, you know you should do it. And the inner dialogue and the analogy that I share with my team is, let's say, for example, you had a young team member come up to you and go, hey, what do I do? And you tell them to go and do it. And a month later you come back going, have you done it? They're like, nah, but tell me what else I need to do. Yeah. You're like, but go and do that thing first and then come back. A month later you check in, have you done that? No, I still haven't done it, but give me some other ideas to do. And you're like, mate, you need to do that first thing that I told you before you can go off and do the other stuff. And sometimes, and what you think of that person or your respect of them drops a little bit because they're not listening to you, but they're still asking you for advice. And it's almost the same thing that happens to us internally with us going, we know what we need to do. We're not listening to our own advice, and therefore our own like level of self-respect just drops back a peg as well.
Oh, man, that's dangerous.
Isn't it?
That's really dangerous.
Like that. That's why I'm like, be careful of that inner dialogue and that inner voice because it's quite powerful. And I mean, you're tuned into a lot of the Tony Robbins and I'm all about self-development, and anyone that's come on here to this show that has built either a big portfolio or a really good business has invested more time into their self-development than they have their own portfolio. Like the portfolio is a beneficiary of the way they shop in their self-development, their health, their well-being, mental mindset, self-development, all that kind of plugs in, and they've just got the results at the back end.
Man, it's still like, I know that. Like you said that then, it hit me because I've been like, before I was working with one of the business I was working with was an education company. A lot of what they were doing is personal and professional development.
Right.
And I used to love just freaking going DeMartini, like all these like people who just like, just helps you unlock and get rid of the bullshit. So I know that as I keep growing as a business person, as a buyer's agent, as a father, a husband, I want to keep developing, and that's what I should be spending my money on. But when it comes to spending my money on, it still challenges me. It still challenges me. Like even I went to Tony Robbins the other day. It was just $1,000 for the ticket, and I was like, I saw it and I was like, I'm gonna go. I didn't pay for the ticket for maybe like 2 months. I didn't buy a ticket for 2 months because I just didn't want to spend the money.
Yeah.
So silly.
But you know the return on that investment is going to be significant.
Yeah, right? And here I am sitting out just raving on about it and talking about it, and we're going to another conference this year, me and my wife, and it's like, but you just put it off. But it's natural. It's natural, but overcoming it and doing it is the big thing.
I think acknowledging it and seeing it's one thing, and then you go, right, now I need to. And I think the other part is when we had a chat a while ago, it's like that level of accountability, like being able to say it to someone, it almost like crystallizes and going, yeah, what am I kind of stuck on it? And that's why I'm a big believer in kind of putting your goals or what you want to achieve out there, talking it into existence then means it's like, yeah, you said that, are you going to do it? And someone else will be able to call you out on it. I think becomes very, very important as well.
Yeah, man, that's we were talking just this morning, me and my wife, of like how many properties we're going to do this year. Awesome. I was like, yeah, we'll do 1, maybe 2. Yeah. But then speaking it out, you're like, I got to get to doing stuff. Like the 2 would be like one first and one in the SMSF. It's like, well, now I've just said it, and now I've created myself a job of setting up the SMSF and doing this stuff. So it's like, but yeah, it holds you accountable. But man, it's that's the hard part, I think.
Yeah, you can't negotiate with yourself once you set those those personal targets. Man, I reckon we could talk for hours.
How long have we gone?
I don't know.
Maybe too long. I don't know. What else? Is there anything else that
mate,
I should share? Or?
Mate, I think it's just yeah. I mean, you talk about where you want to go this year as well. Speaking about end game, if you were to give advice to yourself maybe a few years ago, what would that look like? Knowing what you know now, I guess you got a pregnant wife there, first child on the way. What are you telling yourself?
If I was to give myself some advice back then, it would be get ready. Get ready. There's lots of opportunities coming, and just to get ready.
Nice.
I've said this a few times with Sammy, on some other podcasts, but I used to live in this place where I didn't think there was that many opportunities, and every single one I'd wring the neck of it just to like really, like I just didn't want to let it go. But over time, I've realised that good opportunities are coming all the time. But if you're not in a place of being ready to do something about it, that's the thing that's gonna, because they pass you by. They pass you by. And you're like, oh, I should have done that, but I didn't have this, and this ready.
Well, Lucky's opportunity and preparation meeting, right?
I like that.
Yeah.
I spoke to my broker this week as well because a little opportunity come up, and I said,
yeah.
do you reckon I could be able to quickly take this this money out, do with this guy at CBA? And so he just does everything. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I could do that for you. It might take me a couple of days. But I was like, yeah, this property looks good. I think I want to take some money out. He's like, you should be prepared for these things. I could have done this for you 2 months ago, taking this equity out, and you could have had a pre-approval ready to go. And it's I laughed because that was a reminder for me. Like, we want to do these things. We want to buy 2 properties this year. I should be ready. But opportunities are coming all the time.
Correct.
So that would be the thing that I would say. Like, just be ready. If that's for someone, making sure that they've saved their deposit so they can start to build. Just start a property portfolio.
Yeah.
Or they're not even at that stage yet. Maybe they've just got to say, okay, set themselves a savings target and just stick to it every week. Like,
beautiful. What
is the thing to do to get ready? Because opportunities are coming and there will be plenty of them.
Awesome. Sage advice, mate. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Appreciate your energy. I love what you're putting out there, mate, and I wish you and your family every success for 2024. We'll have to check in later and see how you're going.
Yeah, let's do that.
Hold you to that.
All right.
Hold you to that account as well. Mate, I really hope you found this helpful. If you love what Jason's put out there, you want to have a chat to Jason, we'll include your details and the team at APS. So if you do want to reach out, by all means, please feel free to reach out to Jason. I think got exceptional energy, and I think you got a great outlook and experience, mate. So well done.
Thanks, Aaron.
Well done. That's a wrap for another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. If you loved it, leave us a review, subscribe, or better yet, tell us a question that you'd like answered for future episodes as well. And until next time, take care.